All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Morning,
sir.
sir.
Okay,
Morning,
thank
sir.
you. For
Good
today's
morning
meet
po.
will be okay, thank you, Amy. Thank you for responding. For today's meet, we'll be talking about discovering literature as a tool to assert one's unique identity and to better understand other people. At the end of this discussion, you should be able to determine the truthfulness and accuracy of the material viewed, discover conflicts and the need to resolve them in nonviolent ways, and to discover literature as a tool to assert one's unique identity and to better understand other people. Before we head into our discussion, let's have this simple warm-up activity. Okay, I have here pieces of graphics that signifies a certain culture or symbolizes a certain country. What I want you to do is to observe these graphics and then identify or determine what country or culture it represents. In these first in this first set of graphics, I have here a bowl of ramen, onigiri, and three koi fish. Let's have Aimee,
Yes, sir.
your answer, please.
Sir, I think it represents Japan.
Okay, very good. Japan is known for its delicious ramen restaurants, and it's known for onigiri or rice balls or rice cakes. And Japan uses koi fish, to symbolize wealth and fortune. Next, let's have Shailene Villaflor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Um, I think, sir, these things belongs to Thailand.
Okay, good observation. Thailand is known for its elephants and monkeys. Thailand is also known for Buddhism. They have lots of temples and they're very religious. And Thailand has its own version of martial arts, which is Muay Thai. How about this one? Let's have Miss Padul.
Sir, I think it's Korea.
Okay, very good. We have hanbok, a traditional Korean dress, soju, which is the Korean common beer, and that trendy heart sign. Very good. How about this one? Let's have yes, Amy. Thank you for volunteering.
Sir, I think these pictures represent England.
Okay, very good. Big Ben is located in England. It's a very famous tourist spot, and England is known for its government system, which is patriarchy. They are ruled by a queen, and of course, if there's a queen, she has her soldiers or her guards. And the last, we have this set. I me again. How about you, Bernadette?
Sir, it's the Philippines po.
Okay, very good. The first graphic represents the Filipinos' pagbabayanihan or pagtutulungan. And then we have baro at saya, and then our most common form of transportation, which is tricycle. Now, uh, all these pictures represent a way of life that is culture. Now, I want you to tell me what you know about culture. How about let's have Marites, okay?
Sir, I think culture includes our dance practices.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Yes, Amy?
I think, sir, culture includes the foods. Some of the foods we have here is not known to other places.
Okay, good. How about last one? Let's have Jay.
Sir, the clothes.
Okay, very good. Now, let me reiterate. All these things you answered, the food, the clothes, the dances, fall under the umbrella of way of life. And way of life is culture. Now, culture is best represented or best showcased through literature. Now, through literature, we are provided or we can see how other people live their lives. We can see how these groups of people live their days. We get to see their practices, their beliefs, their foods, things like that. Also, okay, just to supplement what I've said, many people or many associates reading with traveling. Many will say that when you read about a place, it's like you can feel or you can imagine yourself being on that place. When you read about food, clothes, dances, music, it's like you can taste the food. It's like you can feel their dances and it's like you can hear their music. It's like that. Literature provides you with that experience of culture. Now, before we head in deeper, before we dive deeper, let's have this simple activity. Okay, I have here chunks of paragraphs that from a selection, and what I want you to do is to read, carefully read, and then underline the words or phrases that showcase the unique customs of Filipinos. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, thank you for responding. Now, for this one, let's have Marites.
Tony grew up in America for 12 years. Although raised in the States, his Filipino mother made sure that he is accustomed to Filipino culture. Tony knows how to say po and opo. He can also speak some Tagalog his mother taught him.
Okay, your answer.
Sir, I think it's po and opo.
Okay, very good. In other states, they address, it's common to address people by their first names. But here in the Philippines, when we are conversing or talking with someone older or with someone who has a position higher to us, for example, you're a student and then you're talking to your teacher, we use po and opo to show politeness and respect. For this one, let's have Denise. Excuse me.
K-pop. For Christmas, his mother wanted to spend the holiday in her hometown in the Philippines. Tony was so excited and insisted that he would go shop for pasalubong with his mother and father. When he remembered that he has younger cousins, he decided to give some of his clothes and shoes to his cousins. After sorting out which ones to give away, he handed it to his mother to put in a balikbayan box.
Okay, and your answer?
Sir, the answer is pasalubong. Give some of his clothes and shoes to his cousin and balikbayan box po.
Okay. Now, these things are common to us and they're not very common to other places. For example, the pasalubong. Uh, it's normal for the kids, for Filipino kids to ask for pasalubong or for a gift when someone arrived at when someone entered their house from a trip, for example, let's say to some simple place like for example the palenque or just maybe some sari-sari store, kids would always ask for, let's say, pieces of candy or chocolates, and then giving clothes and shoes. This is what we call handowns. This is very common to us. For example, the let's say these glasses that I'm wearing, this is not bought this sorry, this is not bought for me. This is bought for my sister. When she got a new pair of glasses, she gave this to me. That's a handouts. And then the balikbayan box. When our relatives who are working abroad, whenever they came home or come home in the Philippines, they would always prepare a balikbayan box containing lots of different stuffs that they bought for us. Okay. Now for this one, let's have Bernadette.
When Donnie's family arrived in the Philippines, they were welcomed by his grandparents at the airport. He remembered how to greet Filipino elders with respect by pagmamano. When they arrived home, his cousins were excited to meet him. He also knew that older cousins should be named Ate and Kuya instead of their names.
Okay, your answer.
Um, Pagmamano po and Ate and Kuya.
Okay, correct. Now, pagmamana is a unique Filipino custom where the whoever wants to show respect to an elderly or to a superior would, let's say, lend the back of their palm to touch the superior's or the elderly's forehead. I'm sorry, I got it backwards. You will take the back of the palm of the elderly and then you will touch it on your forehead. I'm sorry. And then ate and kuya, again, we use honorifics to address to someone older. We don't, it's considered rude to use first names to address someone older. For this one, how about Aimee?
Later that night, everyone in the house was busy preparing for Noche Buena. Tony was so surprised to see so many foods that they did not have in the America, like lechon and buko salad. But among many others, the highlight of the trip for Tony is witnessing the gift-giving culture of Filipinos on Christmas Day. Presents are not in the box under the tree. Children visit houses saying, "Namamas ko po," with their pockets full of red envelopes called angpao. Sir, I think
Okay.
the mention of the lechon and buko salad and also the namamas ko po and the pockets full of red envelope called angpao.
Okay, correct. Now, lechon and buko salad are traditional Filipino foods. It's rare that you'll see these foods in other countries. Now, namamas ko po. Christmas in the Philippines is often described for the kids. Now the kids say the phrase "namamas ko po" to ask for money or gift to their ninangs, parents, and titos and titas. Now, ang pao, and also let me mention the gift giving here in the Philippines. Now, in other countries, they put the gifts under a Christmas tree. But here in the Philippines, Christmas tree is not very common. So what we do is that we give the gift directly on the 24th or on the 25th. And the ang pao, the red envelopes, whoever received that will be very, very happy, trust me. Now, moving on, what is it? Finding identity through literature. Now, we've been talking about literature ever since the beginning of this discussion. But then, what is literature? Now, literature is a term used to describe written and sometimes spoken material. It came from a Latin word which means writing formed with letters. Now, the most traditional definition of literature is works from or of creative imagination. For example, the poems, the dramas, the scripts, and in some cases, um, journalism and songs. Now, literature, literatures are visual, but it's not. It doesn't limit. Literature is not limited to the eyes only. Let's see this picture. Please observe the picture, and then after a while, uh, tell me which place you think the guy is in. You have, let's say, 5 seconds. Okay. I think Sailing Paddle raised her hand first.
I think the answer is in a museum, sir.
Okay.
Since there are a number of artwork shown in the picture.
Okay. Good observation. Now, the guy in the picture is in a museum. He is in an art museum. Now, art museums commonly display visual arts, meaning these pieces of literatures are specialized for the eyes. But again, literature can be enjoyed through the rest of our senses as well, not just the eyes. There are other museums that display audiovisual, or there are other museums or other places that displays audiovisual literature, like maybe drama, musicals, or theaters. And there are also displays that involves the sense of touch or movement, kinetic sculptures, or kinetic displays. Some places or some museums allow their visitors to interact or to touch these displays because that's part of the experience. Again, literature is not just for the eyes, it can be lived through various um, mediums, or it can be experienced through various senses. Now, literature should portray different and real visions to the human life. I think it's safe to say that literature is a reflection of human life, of human realities. Whether human realities is not always happy, it's not always a good life. Sometimes there's sadness, sometimes there's hate, there's anger, there's love, and sometimes there's lust as well. Now, literature should portray these various emotions, these various situations, whether it's positive, it's negative, it's good or bad, because again, literature should reflect human realities. It should remain balanced. It should provide viable representation of human life, of the life here in this world. Oh, here. Literature is an expression of culture. Inside a culture, there are various emotions. Literature should literature is an expression of culture because literature conveys human knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors. Am I going too fast, class?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Please call me out in the case that I'm going too fast or you want me to slow down. Thank you. Now, I have here a piece of literature. What I want you to do is to read and analyze, read and process this piece of literature and tell me what country do you think it is from? Okay, let's have Marites.
I write, erase, rewrite. Erase again and then a poppy blooms. Sir, I
Okay,
think it
what?
is. Ay, yes, sir.
Okay, proceed,
I think,
Marites.
sir, it is Japan.
Okay, very good. Japan. Now, you're correct because this piece of literature is a haiku. It's a haiku. And haikus are traditional Japanese poems. How about this paragraph? Let's have the Aimi. Okay, thank you.
Do I have to read it, sir?
Yes, please.
Alright, so the sun was salmon and hazy in the west. Dodong thought to himself he would tell his father about Taeyang when he got home after he had unhitched the carabao from the plow and led it to its shed and fed it. I think, sir, it's from the Philippines.
Okay, very good. Now, this selection is part of the story we discussed last week. It's a text or a chunk of text from Footnote to Youth by Jose Garcia Villa. Now, for this one, let's have, okay, Miss Padul.
Pra Chao Sua, or the Tiger King, was the ruler of the country. This man was known for his passion for sports, in particular Muay Thai. The king was such a huge fan of his country's national sport that he often entered competitions in disguise, where he beat champions without revealing his true identity.
Okay, your answer, please.
I think Sir Thailand because Muay Thai was mentioned.
Okay, very good. This is a piece of myth or mythology from the title with the same name of the main character, Prachauswa. Okay, now the reason for this activity is because earlier I said that the best way to represent our culture, our country, is through literature. Now, even without the title, even without concrete context, or even without the complete text, you were able to identify or to determine, you were able to determine which country or which culture these pieces of text represents because of certain context clues. For example, in the first one, the context clue there was in the structure of the poem. Um, in grade 7, we've been talking about structures of haiku, that it has three lines, that it has these particular measurements of the lines. In the second one, there was a mention of the carabao. There were pieces of hints of the Filipino culture, and now here in this text, we have Muay Thai. Okay, now identity, literature, culture, and then identity. Literature is the best way to showcase our culture, which means literature signifies identity. But then, what is identity? People identity is a state of belongingness. It's a state of belongingness. Identity is a state of mind in which someone recognizes or identifies their character traits. It's a state of belongingness. When you are aware of your characteristics, of your character traits, you associate them with a certain group. That's identity. For example, I am a Filipino. That's my identity. I was born and raised in the Philippines. Both of my parents are Filipinos. I have this black hair, this brown skin. I eat rice every day. And sometimes I use my hands instead of spoon and fork to eat. Those characteristics identifies me as a Filipino. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's talk about literature and identity together. Now, many authors associate or integrates the theme of literature, the theme of identity in literature because these authors want their readers or audience to immerse themselves, to associate themselves in the writings, in the characters, by making them think or feel that certain characters act or resembles them in some way. For example, in an action movie, there's a hero and a villain. Who you support uh, tells something about you. For example, when you support the hero, maybe you support the hero because you like the fact that he's fighting for what is right. He's fighting for the greater good. You like the fact that he is kind, he is generous, and he is brave. On the other hand, maybe you like the villain because, for example, he knows what he wants and he's passionate about his desires, things like that. Now, literature is a reflection of human realities. Therefore, it depicts social changes. But then, literature does not just depict social changes, it also inspires change. When there's major developments in our society, you can notice or you can observe that some of our literatures are changing as well because literature adapts to reality. Oh, before I move on to the next slide, I want you to remember, people, keep in mind that literature is treated or seen as a credible source of cultural representation. Remember the activity we had, the three pieces of text, the haiku, the footnote to youth, the prachauswa. You were able to identify those three because of their trait to represent a culture. They were able to embody a culture. That's a good supplement for this claim. Now, literature and culture. We've been saying that literature have this tight bond. They have this almost inseparable relationship. Literature and culture are deeply interrelated and both have a strong relationship with each other. Again, let me emphasize literature and culture have a strong connection. They're almost inseparable. When you talk about culture, it's almost impossible not to talk about literature. When you talk about literature, it's impossible at all to not talk about culture because it's like it's almost like they're one and the same. Okay, before we head into conflict, any questions about literature, culture, and identity?
None, sir.
None, sir.
None,
Answer.
sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, conflict. Conflict is another important part of life and literature. Okay. In a in a vast society where people is diverse or sorry, in a vast society where people are diverse, you can't expect everybody to have same origins, same backgrounds, same cultures. Therefore, it's not uncommon for people to have disagreements, oppositions, incompatibility. That's conflict. The opposition, disagreement between people. For example, let's say in a party, Denise and Bernadette were tasked to design a table, a piece of table. And then Denise wants to put green balloons, but then Badet has other opinion. He wants to add blue ribbons instead. That's a conflict. That will generate a conflict. But people in this world, wouldn't it be very, very difficult? Wouldn't it be extremely difficult if conflicts persist without being resolved? Hmm. Diba? It will be very difficult. Now, but then how do we resolve conflict? In our module, there are three ways of resolving a conflict: nonviolent communication, forgiveness and reconciliation, and then violence. Now, in nonviolent communication, this is where you set aside your emotions. Not necessarily set aside completely, but you put it under your control. This is what you use, not this. You allow yourself to uh, play the part of a mature person. This is where concerned parties or concerned group of people listen to each other. This is where they voice their opinions and points and stands clearly. This particular method of resolving a conflict makes us feel responsible for our actions because, again, we rationally communicate in a peaceful manner. Okay. For example, oh wait, let me check the next slide. Okay, okay. For example, one day, Aling Nena was knocking extremely on your door, and then of course she will come out of your house. Then she said to you, "The fruits of your mango trees keeps on falling on my backyard. They keep on making a mess." If you're in this situation, how would you handle this in a way of in a non-violent way? Let's have Denise. Okay, let's have Denise.
Okay, sir. Sir, I would at first ask her to calm down and then I'll offer a solution to the problem po.
Okay, very good. For example, you would say that, or for example, you would apologize first, and then maybe say that you will come to their house to pick up the pieces of mangoes that fell, maybe at least twice a week, or maybe you will just pick the mangoes from the tree before they fall and then share it to the people. Then they wouldn't make a mess anymore. Now, questions about nonviolent communication?
None so
Or
far, sir.
None, sir.
okay, let's proceed. Forgiveness and reconciliation. Now, if the first one uh, majorly or greatly uses rationality, now this one is almost more on the emotional side or emotional part of humans. Forgiveness is reconciliation is when you forgive and then you accept the outcome or the results or the effects of the conflict. And then you let go of any ill emotions you have towards the other person or the other concerned party. This is when, for example, the example earlier about Badet and Denise. For example, um, Denise wants green balloons, and but Badet wants blue ribbons, and then they decided to avoid any further conflicts. They just decided to put uh, a white piece of, let's say, props or a piece of embroidered cloth. That is the outcome. And then forgiveness and reconciliation, both Badet and Denise just accept the fact that the conflict was resolved and then let go of any ill emotions. They're not going to wish uh, the other person anything bad. For example, Badet will not wish for Denise to get hurt, and the same goes for Denise to Badet. That's forgiveness and reconciliation. It's when you let go of the fact that that you are wronged by the other person or you wrong the other person. You let go of any ill emotions. Okay? Now, oh yes, love. But that said, now violence. Now, violence should not be used as a way to resolve conflict. Why? Because people, violence does not solve conflict at all. It just creates more conflict, right? It just creates more conflict because when hurting people, for example, punching people, for example, if Badet, yes, Amy said she agreed. Now, for example, in the example earlier, in Badet and Denise's case, for example, Denise decided to, for example, Badet and Denise couldn't come to an agreement. And then Denise decided to attack Badet. She decided to, let's say, get a wooden bat and then she decided to attack Badet with it. People, if that's the case, will the conflict be resolved? What do you
No,
think?
sir.
Okay, no. The table will remain undecorated. If Denise attacked and Badet attacked Denise back, if Badet decided to take a revenge, the table that they were supposed to design or decorate will not be decorated. Then, hence, the conflict will not be solved. Yes, they may end up in an hospital too, in a sense, generating other conflicts. And so, violence should not be used as a way to resolve conflict. Okay, people, that's the end of our discussions. Now, we're heading to the enrichment activities. We're going to test the learnings that you gain from this lesson. Directions. Read the following statements carefully and then identify the words or group of words that corresponds to the following statements. Questions about the instructions?
None, sir.
Answer.
Sir,
Answer.
Okay, very
Clear,
good.
sir.
Okay, thank you. Number one, let's have, who wants to answer? Yes, Badet?
Sir, do I read the question first?
Yes, please. Thank you.
It is an expression of culture because it conveys human knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors. Literature, sir.
Okay, let's see. Okay, literature, very good. Number two, yes, Jay.
number two, it's basically who you are and what you define yourself as being. It's identity, sir.
Okay, let's see. Okay, identity, very good. Number three, yes, Marites.
It is often expressed in books, novels, or basically any other piece of literature so that the reader can intrigue themselves and relate to the characters and their emotions. Sir, I think it is the theme of identity.
Okay, let's see. Okay, theme of identity, very good. Now, number 4. Yes, Aimee?
Literature is seen as an blank of culture and society, portraying people's ideas and dreams set in certain time and space frameworks in the most creative and imaginary way. I think, sir, my answer is reflection.
Let's see. Okay, reflection. Very good. Number 5. Yes, Miss Padul?
Number 5. This term has a deeply interrelated and strong relationship with literature. The answer is culture, sir.
Okay, culture. Very good. Number 6. Yes, Denise?
This should not be used as a way to resolve conflict. Violence po.
Okay, violence. Very good. Correct. Number 7. Aimee again. Let's have Badet.
After a proper agreement has been reached, it is important to blank one another. Forgive, sir.
Okay, forgive. Very good. How about number 8? Yes, Marites.
It is a one way to resolve a conflict that makes us feel responsible for our actions. Sir, it's nonviolent communication.
Let's see. Okay, nonviolent communication. Number 9. Okay, Aimee.
Literature can also be lived through different varieties of blank. Sir, it is media.
Media. Okay, very good. How about number 10? Let's have Jay.
It is a part of life that we can't avoid. It's conflict, sir.
All right, very good. We'll have another activity, another enrichment. Now, the directions for this one is to read each question carefully and then choose the letter that corresponds to your answer. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. Number 1, just read the question and then your answer. Okay, Aimee?
What is literature? My answer is letter C. It is works of the creative imagination, including poetry, drama, fiction, nonfiction, and in some instances, journalism and song.
Oh, okay, correct. Letter C. Now, number 2. Yes, Denise?
This refers to the state of mind in which someone recognizes or identifies their character traits that leads to finding out who they are and what they do, not of someone else. Okay, I think letter C, identity po.
Let's see. Okay, letter C. Very good. How about number 3? Yes, Bernadette?
The following are unique Filipino custom except uh, the answer po is letter D, sir. Letter
Oh,
D, taking a bow when meeting someone.
okay, very good. Correct. Letter D. How about number 4? Yes, Miss Padol?
Number 4. When resolving conflicts, which of the following is to be avoided? I think it's letter A, sir, violence.
Okay, violence. Correct. Now, number 5. Yes, Marites?
It is working toward peace with principles and tools that are universally applicable at every level, between individuals, families, communities, and nations. Sir, I think the answer is letter A, conflict resolution.
Okay, correct. Very good. Now, I think this is the last activity. The directions is write V if the resolution is violent and NV if non-violent. Okay, number 6. Please read the statement first. Yes, Aimee?
Number 6. Punch someone in the face to show revenge. It is letter B. Violent.
Okay, correct. How about number 7? Yes, J?
Number 7, Take a deep breath and relax when feeling furious. It's envy, sir, non-violent.
Okay. Okay, very good. Correct. How about, okay, Denise, number 8?
Apologize to encourage peace. I think it's envy, sir, non-violent.
Okay, non-violent. Correct. How about number 9? Yes, Bernadette?
Listen to the speaker intently to come up with mutual understanding. It's envy, sir, nonviolent.
Okay, correct. And B. And last, number 10? Yes, Padul?
Number 10. Hurt someone the way they hurt you. Letter V, sir, violent.
Let's see. Okay, it's violent. Okay, that's it for our enrichment activities. For next week's assignment, I want you to carefully read and process pages 21 and 22 of your module and then submit a synthesis about the significant points discussed there. I'll post further instructions about this after the meeting. Stand by for it. Do you have any more questions? Clarifications?
None,
Answer.
sir.
None, sir.
Answer.
Sir,
Okay, thank you. Very good. Then that would be all for today's meet. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank
Goodbye
you,
and thank
thank
you
you
sir.
po.
Goodbye, sir.
po.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Bye, sir.
Thank you.